Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I've been trying to do this story for the past 2 days and I've not been able to get around to the story. So I'm just going to get this out while I'm sitting here at the helm into this beautiful wooden temple that is my studio. That's not wooden at all. Brexit. So what's taking place in the UK right now is fascinating. Theresa May, well, just rewind. The UK government, or the people of the UK, has come out and say, we're done. We want to leave. I'm going to take the largest brick that I can find and throw it to the largest window that I can get that muster up enough strength to go throw it through. And they did, in the same way America did with Trump. Well, in this case, Brexit has consequences, just like elections have consequences. In this referendum, the government utterly collapsed. David Cameron calls it quits, and in comes Theresa May, and Theresa May was given this boiling, burning bag of poo to do with it as she could. She has, for the most part, wax and wane without ever necessarily being solid about what she's trying to accomplish. And this has been somewhat of a problem. She has divisions in her government, just like Labour has divisions in their government over this momentous choice. Leave, stay. And what does those things mean to either leave and to stay? You have Brexiteers who says leave means leave and we need to get on with this. But those people who don't necessarily seem to be detached from the consequences of those actions. Meaning it's almost as if they're looking at the world through a glass and they themselves, either through wealth or wherever they are somehow removed from the negative consequences. And I'm talking about materially negative consequences, not that looks bad, but oh my God, I've lost my business. Oh my God, I can't feed my family. Oh my God, I can't afford X or Y. They seem removed from those things. Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson talked about it in this kind of it's in this, what's the word I'm looking for? In diminutive terms. Like it wasn't a big of a deal that there's going to be chaos. Hey, let's bring that out. You're yada yada and chaos. What does that mean? Chaos. You're talking about people losing their livelihoods, people losing their jobs. And I'm not saying this is somebody who's against Brexit. I'm just saying I'm not for or against it. I guess I'm making this point that any honest accounting of it has to take those things into account. And it's possible that the people who are doing this particular accounting don't care about those things, so the value of those things matters less. What I would tell you is there are a lot of people who live in Britain, however, that do care about those things because they are going to be materially affected. This isn't a case for Remain at all. Zero. I'm just making the point of saying, at the very least, be aware of what's taking place. Theresa May needing to get them out. She needed to have a white paper done. The white paper wasn't done. Man, the white paper was going to be this understanding of this is what we are trying to accomplish as we get out of here. And she explained that the white paper wasn't going to be done when she went to Brussels, speaking to the other 27 leaders of the countries of the EU. And apparently there was tongue lashings, or at the very least exasperated utterances of words aimed in the direction of the UK and Theresa May that they need to speed up. You need to speed this process up. You're supposed to be farther along than this. You need to speed this process up. What are you going to do with the Northern Ireland border? What are you going to do with the Northern Ireland border? And the fact is, the catch for this is, the reason why they keep asking her that question is because what she's giving them as something, or as Jesus Christ, my brain's not working. What she's giving them as solutions aren't solutions at all. They're fantasy. It's Narnia. Hey, we're going to have this technology in 2 years. It's going to do. You're talking about technology that's going to be in the future? Hey, let's talk about time machines. For that matter, if we're going to talk about stuff in the future. And the other guys were talking about other technology, or what she says, max facilitation. That was her plan. Using this idea of collecting tariffs and everything else. It's this clumsy system of trying to get money from one hand and do all of this exchanging and everything else. It's weird. Boris Johnson, I think he called it stupid. By the same token, Boris Johnson's solution doesn't exist. Neither solution works. Neither solution works. And as much as I like Jeremy Corbyn, he's no shining, emblem here. His solution doesn't make sense either. But he has the option, you can call it the opportunity, or he has this advantage of not necessarily being in power to have to implement that particular solution. They want access to some degree to the single market. They want to pick and choose. And Europe has already told them we are a body of laws. If you're going to be a part of the single market, meaning if you want access to our single market, you have to abide by certain rules. You could say that these guys are being pricks because Britain left. That may be fair. But from their perspective, they don't want to make it easy for countries to leave the EU. You already have many Eurosceptic countries like Italy. And after what took place to Greece, it's possible that Greece may be even trending a little bit. Hey, maybe we don't particularly like this institution if we get the opportunity. Slovenia, I think, was the other country that ended up with a Eurosceptic system. People in power. Look, all I'm saying is, from Brussels' standpoint, Britain getting a good deal leaving makes it more likely that other countries may leave. Meaning, it is all the impetus in the world for them to punish Britain to some degree, or at the very least make it hurt, that when they're walking away, other countries won't necessarily want to follow. This is not necessarily an easy situation. The interesting part here has to do with what Tusk said, with essentially what they came back saying. Look, we still have divergences on these major issues. What are we going to do with the border? What are we going to do with the border? Look, the last point that I want to make here before leaving, I just want to give an overview of what was taking place. She's gone to Brussels. Essentially, there's still divisions in what needs to take place. No solutions. And they're telling them to speed up the process. Speed up the process. You guys need to speed up the process. And look, fact is, this makes the hard border, or this no-deal Brexit, more likely at this point. Now, this also brings into the vote the meaningful vote thing, which makes that a big fucking deal. Now, what I mean by that is the agreement that Parliament made in order to kind of get through without having to, or without Theresa May's government losing that vote, the meaningful vote, was to essentially say, look, if there's a border that's going to be put on Northern Ireland, you need to bring that before Parliament. The interesting part here is that this may not have been a bad idea or a bad move from the standpoint of the Remainers. The reason I say that, if the EU is saying we're a body of laws, and as a body of laws, we can't just tweak this or dim that just for you, and you, after all, were the one who's decided to leave, why are we going to tweak our rules for you? If that's true, then what Europe is also going to say is there needs to be a border on Ireland. And the border proposal that you're giving us is not going to cut it. Which means that right off the bat, the provision that the government had to yield to, which is, if there's going to be a border on Northern Ireland, we get a vote, means this may go back to Parliament. This is fascinating politics about what's taking place in the UK. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. It's absolutely fascinating. So I'm going to end this here. Oh, here's the other thing. DUP. So one of the options that some people said was, look, just let Ireland reunify. It's essentially give up Ireland. Now, some people may say, well, that's somewhat of an easy solution in order for that issue. At the very least, the UK solves that problem in regards to leaving. The DUP are fanatics. They're loyalists. They're the people who are screaming for the king. They're, in the argument of when we make jokes about TYT putting down their weapons and running for the hills, that's the DUP. They're the guys who don't want to leave. They're rabid loyalists. They're not going anywhere. And if Theresa May even uttered the term of some kind of reunification, her government would implode. Her government would implode. She is constrained by her options. Remember, the DUP is the organization that nobody even knew who the fuck they were. But she had to merge with them in order to even maintain her government itself, meaning she has a crickety, weak government. This is fascinating. And this is amazing politics on a really big scale taking place in Europe. So, stay tuned. I'm not going to keep this one. Stay tuned. Joshua Renshaw. So when is Jamal going to make the connection that his attraction to women in power is the genesis of his interest in researching Theresa May? Oh, that's funny. She does have awesome power suits. Her power suits are awesome. She has awesome suits. Alright, you can placate Good Friday crowd and loyalists both with real concessions. Maybe, Garden. Maybe. Now, look. Now, you can make an argument. I've heard some people make the argument that Theresa May really doesn't want to leave. That it's not in her. And because it's not in her, like, she can't really take him out of the process. And I've heard people also make that, like you saying, like she's not trying to placate these guys. I don't know, man. I think she's caught between Brexiteers and people who don't want to go anywhere. That's what I think. And I think at some point she needs to make a choice. And I think the problem is they're getting closer and closer to that deadline. And as they get closer to the deadline and when they're talking about leaving, they're going to be a vassal state. I mean, the backstop that they've agreed to is they've essentially stuck with the laws and the rules of the EU and everything else with no power to affect those things. I don't think they have any power to affect those things. If they hit the backstop, they're stuck. It's such a weird situation. You have people like Verhofstadt who's looking at this saying, you know, how can you have a backstop with a time limit? A backstop is backstop. Because he knows in his head you're going to be a vassal state of the EU indefinitely if this backstop is hit. This is fascinating politics. The thing I want you to realize, though, is from the British standpoint, the UK politicians know that the EU is going to try to hurt them and hit them on the knuckles. They know it. And it's taking place now. Just in small ways. So you have auto companies or companies that are in Europe that are being told, don't buy your products from Britain. It's going to be difficult. Buy your products from somewhere else within the EU, which drains business from those companies. And you could see it. All these Brexiteers are talking about this stuff as if this stuff is not happening. You could see it. You could see it. It's in the data. Like one article after the next, you could see some of the effects that are taking place. Now, this could be like switching a job. Like you switch a career, something that you hate to something that you love, and in the beginning, you take a hit, but later on, you're better off for it. Or maybe not, but I don't know. But the Brexiteers are acting like this stuff is invisible. They act like they don't see it at all. They act like they don't see it at all. So, I'm going to end this. I'm not going to keep this one long because I got to be up early in the morning. And if I'm being honest, there's another story I really want to do about the intelligence services essentially trying to gut the peace process with North Korea while at the same time trying to hit Trump. This is amazing. Edward Snowden is in fucking Russia right now because of the information he leaked. WikiLeaks. Julian Assange is supposedly a non-state hostile actor. And he's in a fucking Ecuadorian embassy for the past 6 years. What about this? Well, where is it? What about this? What about this? North Korea has increased its nuclear production. Okay, how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that, NBC News? U.S. intelligence agencies believe that North Korea has increased its production of fuel for nuclear weapons at a moment at multiple secret sites in recent months. How do you know that? What intelligence services told you that? Did those intelligence services come through the President of the United States? Did the President okay you giving that information out? Who? Where is the data that shows it? I'm more interested in this thing of why is it okay for Julian Assange to be locked in for him giving state information, Snowden, information, Manning, information, all of these people giving information based on waste, fraud, abuse, outright murder, or bad behavior by the government itself. In this case, you have people who are leaking information from the shadows, anonymous sources that are hiding in the shadows. And the intelligence services have told us this. Why is it okay for these intelligence services to leak information in CBS News or NBC News or any of these news organizations, but when this information is leaked to, let's say, WikiLeaks or Snowden or something like that, there's a big uproar about it, and we're going after these people? Is the United States government going to go after the people who leak this information? And how do you know this information is even real? anonymous forces from the shadows. U.S. intelligence agencies believe that North Korea has increased its production of fuel for nuclear weapons at multiple secret sites. And that Kim Jong-un may try to hide those facilities as he seeks more concessions in the nuclear talks with the Trump administration, U.S. officials told NBC News. This is literally the intelligence services trying to hit Trump in the knees before the peace process is even along the way. That's all this is. Even in the first statement, they don't know what they're talking about. They believe, tell me what you know, not what you believe. All of this is belief. And multiple secret sites in months. And that Kim Jong-un may, they don't even know, try to hide those facilities. They haven't even started the peace process. Or at the very least haven't gotten along the way. How do you know? You don't even know. In the first paragraph, they believe this. They don't know this. They believe it. They believe it. And he may try to hide those things. Meaning you don't even know what those talks are going to consist of. You don't even know what is even going to be on the table. And you're from the shadows already hitting him in the knees. Or the processes in the knees. Or both. I don't even know which one. Bunch of Hillary supporters, probably. The intelligence assessment, which is not previously reported, seems to counter the sentiments presented by President Donald Trump, who tweeted after his historic June summit that there is no longer nuclear threat from North Korea. Analysts at the CIA and other intelligence agencies don't see it that way, according to more than a dozen American officials who are familiar with the assessment and spoke on a condition of anonymity. I love that. I love that. Hey, these guys told us in the shadows, but no, we can't necessarily identify their names. And I understand when WikiLeaks gives this information, they actually give you the documents where you can look at it and really assess, and they've had 100% accuracy. But hey, these guys are telling you what they believe and what they feel. No, they're not going to give you their identities. Trust us. Just trust us. Ain't that awesome? You feel all that trust? They see the regime as positioning itself to extract every concession it can from the Trump administration while clinging to the nuclear weapons it believes is essential to its survival. Here's the thing, though. Getting rid of nuclear weapons wasn't the first on my agenda. Why would it be? Why would I go into some kind of agreement when I know that that person who I'm dealing with believes that that particular thing is completely essential, and that any removal of that thing or putting that thing on the table right off the bat is a fail for the negotiations? Meaning, it is impossible for me to have peace talks with something that is necessary for the peace talks to even take place. He believes that his safety and security is ensured by nuclear weapons, which is the reason why nuclear weapons wasn't the thing on my list that needed to take place for us to move this peace process along. That's their standard that they created. And they're using that standard in order to try to hit Trump on the knees. And yeah, Trump might have created that standard when he's talking about it, but nobody in their right mind is going into a peace process saying, I need you to get rid of everything, and we're giving you nothing. They're wielding knives from the shadows. That's my point. That's my point. And the President of the United States, at this moment, in an odd, weird contortion of ways, seems to be further to the left than these quote-unquote officials who are trying to kneecap the process. I can't determine whether or not they're trying to kneecap Trump or whether they're trying to kneecap this idea of some kind of resolution here. I don't know which one. But it seems like that is taking place. You are never going to get that country to give up its nuclear weapons if it believes that you are potentially a threat to that country. And any concession that you're going to try to get them to give that up in that way, or meaning there is no negotiation if it's predicated on them giving up the thing that they believe they need to secure their lives. They're just not. You're better off with a peace process in the sense of a process of working to create relationships, and they're sabotaging this. That's my point. They're sabotaging this. They're sabotaging it from the shadows. Let's keep going. In recent months, even as the two sides engaged in diplomacy, North Korea was stepping up its production of enriched uranium for nuclear weapons, 5 U.S. officials say, citing the latest intelligence assessment. North Korea and the United States agreed at the summit to work towards denuclearization, but there is no specific deal. On Trump's order, the U.S. military canceled training exercises on Korean Peninsula, a major concession to Kim. Yes, because if you're trying to have some agreement, you got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. While the North Koreans have stopped missiles and nuclear tests, there is no evidence that the decreasing stockpiles or that they have stopped their production, said one U.S. official. There's no evidence that they are decreasing stockpiles or that they have stopped production, says one official briefed on the latest intelligence. There's absolutely unequivocal evidence that they are trying to deceive us. Look, I'm going to say it this way. In any process where you're trying to initiate some level of peace, there has to be trust. How do you start trust? I distrust you, you distrust me. How do we mail those things in order to kind of move the process along? You start somewhere. Stopping the military exercises is minor. That's minor. They're acting like that's a major concession. That is minor. Those troops are still there. And are you telling me they can't start those military exercises up within a few months if they needed to, or respin this process up? The disposition of the United States may have changed from the standpoint of tone in the way it's interacting with North Korea. But troops are still there. The only thing that's changed is the rhetoric. But I'm making the point that that's a good tonal change. And it's a process. It's not a singular thing. The United States has destroyed Libya, has destroyed Iraq. It has been bombing Somalia. It has been assisting Saudi Arabia, murder and starve Yemenis. It's pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. It's pulled out of the other deal with the climate change thing. We've even broken our own deals with North Korea. Why would they trust us? We look at these things purely from the standpoint of us. Why would they trust us? We're violent maniacs. Now, I understand that him having nuclear weapons is somewhat of a problem. I don't want him having nuclear weapons. I don't think he's a maniac. I think at the end of the day, he's a person with magnificent amounts of power that he grew into. He's a horrible guy. But I suspect that he has a certain amount of wanting to stay alive and wanting to stay breathing. And as evidence of that, he's been willing to come into some level of negotiations to try to tamp down on the tension that's been taking place. But just as a point of fact, he has no reason to trust us. I don't understand why these papers and these things are taking this perspective that there should be implicit trust of the United States. I'm sorry, there should not be. Why would he give up his nuclear weapons right off the bat on a whim? And if that is the standard to which you're using your negotiations, those negotiations will fail. That's all I'm saying. The positioning that they're taking here in this paper is a little strange because it's using anonymous sources in order to try to attack from the shadows with stuff that they don't necessarily know, giving you information that they just believe. I'll put the article at the bottom. You can read for yourself. Like I said, I can't tell if this is one of those things where they're trying to attack Trump, or they're trying to attack the peace process, or some level of both. Some level of both. But read it for yourself. Alright guys, I will end this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Just one catch. Be aware when you're reading stuff that some people in these cases have agendas. That the information that's leaked is being leaked for a reason, that it's not just arbitrary, and the reason is not always the, oh my God, he cares so much about the country, he's just leaking information. That's not always the case. Especially look for words of belief, thinks, anonymous, this guy said this in the shadows, etc., etc., etc. Some anonymous source told me this, some governmental source said this, some other official source said this. You have no idea who these fucking people are. You have no idea who these are. I'm at this here. I read this story and I was like, They're hitting this stuff in the knees before it's even taking off. And what they're using for this is stuff that they prosecuted other people for doing. But in this particular case, it's perfectly okay. NBC News has no issue publishing this story at all. Zero issue. By the same token, they in no way stood up for Julian Assange. It's okay for us to get intelligence leaks. It's okay for us to get them, but fuck everybody else. I'll end this here. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks guys.